Hi, my name is Perry Gaidurgis. I'm your host of the Recovery Today show that is sponsored by the Recovery Resource Center. I'm a person in long-term recovery, which for me means that I have not had a drink or a drug in over 40 years. And so we, on this show, explore different topics around recovery and the whole idea of how recovery is a process, more so than an event. We also have guests from our community. My guest today is Crystal Toomer. She is with the COAT program in Wicomico County. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Crystal, starting right out, the COATS program, what is the acronyms for that and what is that in our county?
The COAT team is a community outreach addictions team, and we are all peers going out into the community whenever we're needed to try to connect people with treatment. Any kind of treatment that they need, whether it's maintenance or inpatient or outpatient. Whenever there's a drug overdose in the hospital or anyone tests positive for any drugs or alcohol, we are called in to see if we can help them connect.
Wow, that is through the health department?
It's through the health department, yes.
Okay, and so you do work with all the hospital and the police department?
I work with the sheriff's office as well. We have ride-alongs with them weekly usually, where we'll go out and any recent overdoses, we'll try to connect with them to see if they want to do any kind of treatment or see if they want to be Narcan trained or their family members if that's who's home at the time. But just trying to connect them with the resources in the community that are available.
Okay, you mentioned Narcan. Some of our viewers might not know what that is. So what is Narcan when you're in a...
Narcan is I don't want to use the word drug, but it is it reverses the side effect of an overdose. It's a blocker that brings you out of an overdose, like instantly. Okay,
so I imagine first responders would have this. And
first responders have it, sheriff office, police, they carry it around with them. It's people in the community that have been trained on it and they carry it with them hopefully at all times.
So in a typical day or maybe a typical week, if there's such a thing, I guess the sheriff's department might be, or a first responder would call the health department, or you and your team to show up?
We are a 24-hour service, so it's a number that they can call. Either the hospital call or the task force, whoever responds first mostly, will give us a call and let us know what is going on and what room number the person is in so that we can connect with them.
Okay. So I would imagine that you've seen both tragedies and heartbreak and devastation, I suppose.
Unfortunately, I have. When they come into the hospital, whether it's a drug overdose or whether it's alcohol withdrawal or any kind of drug, they're at a vulnerable state. They need to know that help is available and they need to know where it is. You have family members that come in that don't know what to do and think that you can make someone grab a hold of recovery, but you can't. You can love them through it. You can give them resources, but it has to be their choice at the end of the day. But you do see a lot of people broken. Wow.
So, I mean, I imagine there's an enormous amount of compassion and heartfelt sort of public service that you're doing in that kind of work. So what would bring a person like yourself to do that kind of work?
Well, myself, I'm in recovery myself, and I'm coming up on 6 years next month.
Okay. Awesome.
So that for me, when I was brought into recovery, it was love and kindness that brought me here. I had people from church, I had people from C4CS. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's called Center for Clean Start. Is where I started at, and my counselors were wonderful, and they helped me in many different ways. I had a counselor actually show up at my door and was like, "Crystal, what are you doing?" And I think you interviewed her before, Beth.
Yeah, Beth Olston.
Yeah,
former director of the
RRC.
Yeah, the RRC.
She showed up at my door and was like, "Crystal, what are you doing?" And at that time,
so what were you doing?
At that time, I was back in my addiction. I had some time clean, and I had went back out, and I had just delivered my son. So for me, I was celebrating. So I went right back into what I had crawled out of, and she was there. without a question or a doubt, she was there and she was like, I'm here. When you're ready, I'm here. And that next day, I called her and I went in and she took me to my first meeting, and she's just, I can't even explain.
Wow. What you're reminding me of is statistics that show that recovery doesn't usually happen in a vacuum. There's usually minimally one person or more, or a community who connects.
Yes, definitely.
And there's this connection of sorts. Some people would even say addiction as sort of a God void or an empty void inside of them that they've tried to fill. And it isn't until they are connected in a way that they want recovery finally, as you said earlier.
The void I felt was, I feel that I was lacking spiritual guidance.
Okay.
For me, I had tried recovery different kind of ways, but for me, it was spiritual this time. Mm-hmm. So once I got connected with a home base, a church, mm-hmm. and I did things differently this go around, and here I am.
Out of curiosity, is there a particular church, because you're a native of Salisbury, aren't you?
Yes, I've been here all my life, but I go to New Life Sanctuary Church.
Okay.
And our pastor, Pastor Corbin, he is an awesome man, and he feeds me.
Okay. And it sounds to me then you're feeding other folks as well in the work that you're doing.
Yes, I am. Whatever I'm taught, I try to take it out and just let people know you're not alone. You're not alone. I'm here, and there are other people that are here that care as well.
Yeah, I imagine as viewers are watching this interview and hearing you share, I think sometimes there's parents out there, there's also maybe spouses and significant others of folks who are struggling with addiction that they're either very aware of or maybe suspicious of. And so could you talk a little bit about that sort of in an educational kind of way? Like,
for me, my norm at home was drinking and drugging. That's what it was. That's what I grew up in. So I didn't know a different way of life.
So when did that start for you? To give a little bit about your story, so to speak.
I started drinking at 13.
At 13?
At 13 years old, I was drinking and smoking weed.
Now that's junior high school or middle school age.
Middle school. And by the age of 15, I was snorting cocaine.
Were you?
Yeah. So for me, it just went in a spiral. I stayed at one spot for a while, but it got worse eventually.
Wow. And what did your outside life look like? I mean, you had that life, but how did you sort of survive?
I had good grades in school. I still went out with my friends. I still did, I think, the normal girl thing, but I hid the fact that I was getting high. I hid the fact that I was drinking the way that I was until I was probably about 17. And then after 17, it was just...
Meaning that's when trouble started, or that's when you started dealing with some consequences, or?
Not consequences, but I think everybody knew by then, and it was out of control. It was to the point where I didn't care who saw it. I didn't care what happened with it, and luckily I didn't have a lifestyle of in and out of jail, luckily. But some of the things that I did, I could have definitely been in jail for my life, for the rest of my life.
Well, you're also mentioning this in a way that we were talking about this before the show with Craig, that this sort of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, is a metaphor. Like there's like two different people you see with somebody who's addicted.
Indeed,
it's either very distinctly different, or it's stunning.
At first, I think a lot of people still don't believe to my intent what I used and what I was doing, because I hid it very well, very well. I think my drinking was worse than my drug use, but it all to me was the same. I was crying for help. I didn't know where to get it from, and I pulled everything and everybody around me into it.
So would you believe that, which sounds to be part of your story, is that not everybody who, once they maybe finally have a first-time exposure to help, support, treatment, recovery, gets it sort of right away, and it takes a while for some people? For
some people, it do take a while. For me, it took, I was in recovery for a year the first time, and I relapsed. I went out and celebrated, and it was unbelievable. I was thinking to myself, like, what are you doing? You're celebrating your first year by getting high. Like, who does that? well, you did. You know, and now I look back on it, but I learned from it. I got more education the second go around. And for me, it was the education piece as well that I was missing. Like, I knew nothing about addiction and where it stemmed from and a recovery process, or I knew nothing. And to actually sit down, learn and read and get some directions, and it was just a different.
So with that then, what was going on with your family as far as your parents growing up, or your siblings, or any of that?
Well, my mother and my father both passed when I was 21.
Okay.
So when they passed away, I was on the run, on a race that
would you say that was your way of trying to deal with grieving or,
I believe
loss?
So.
Yeah.
I believe so. At the time, my older two kids' father, he stayed as long as he could, and he left and he took the kids as well.
Your older children?
My older two children.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, it was just like I had no reason to get myself together. And then I met my husband.
Okay.
And in this process, my sister and my brother, like, they fought with me. And I love my sister so much because no matter what, she never gave up on me. Like, she pushes me still now, and she always supports me. And it was a time where I was homeless. She took me into her house, not just me, the baby that I just had, and my now husband, without a question or a doubt. And then when I went back out, I left my child and my husband there.
Okay.
She didn't put him out, no question. Like, even though it was normal to see alcohol and drugs around, it didn't affect everybody like it affected me.
Okay.
You know, my sister, she never had a problem like I did, and I always wondered why, you know, but it doesn't hit everybody the same way, but it has been and is in our family.
So do you buy into the idea that a simple definition of addiction is that your brain's been hijacked?
I'm sorry. I believe, me personally, I think it's hereditary.
Okay.
I think it's a disease.
Okay.
But that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it just started with me. I just think it got realer with me. I paid attention, and I knew that I wanted different than what I seen before.
Okay.
So I learned. I took all the education that I could get on it to process in my life.
So you mentioned children, and I mentioned the word consequence, and I used the idea that there's collateral damage that can happen in addiction, particularly around trust. There's this famous book that came out called It'll Never Happen to Me, and in it there's 3 family laws, and I've interviewed this author before, Claudia Black, and she talks about you don't talk, you don't trust, and you don't feel as family laws. What are your thoughts on that, or your experience with your family with that?
I truly believe that is true. What happens here stays here is how it used to be in my house.
Okay.
As far as addiction and mental health, like I never knew that these were things in my family because I'm looking at normal. This is normal to me. This is what happens. This is what my life is, and that's what. But looking back and seeing now that I had mental health issues in my family, and nobody ever talked about it. Nobody ever dealt with it. And then I'm here with this addiction and mental health. What am I supposed to do? Nobody told me this could happen to me. Nobody told me that I'm bipolar and there's a possibility that later on in life this could happen to you. This might be an issue with your children. Like that, it was just closed doors, and that's how it was kept.
Well, with that, what about the shame or guilt, and how they're 2 different things too? So, shame is very different than guilt. How was that? How were you affected by that back then, or even now?
Well, now, back then, I think that it wasn't an issue because I really didn't know.
Okay.
But now, I try to remind myself that I do not have to be guilty for getting out. I don't have to feel shameful about the things that I'm learning about myself that I didn't know before. I did have an issue with my children, That was my main concern, because how do you shield them from what other people know about you? Like, my younger kids will never know, yeah, unless I tell them. My older two children, that's a different story. I have a son that just turned 19, and I have a 16-year-old daughter. Okay. And I'm trying to rebuild that relationship. So how do I shelter them from my shame and my guilt that other people are going to put out there on me? So I just learned how to, I was always told you can't save your face and your behind at the same time. You have to save one or the other. Right. So I sat my children down and I told them about the things that I did, and you're not always going to hear good things about me. And I'm not proud of everything that I did, but the things that I'm doing now, I'm proud of them, and I'm doing them for you. My daughter, who is 16 and is trying to play every sport, and I want her to see both. I want her to know, like, if it ever becomes an issue, don't hide it. Speak out about it. Reach for help. Like, I think I hid mine a lot of times because I didn't want to, I didn't want my family to suffer from what I'm doing. I didn't want my family to look bad because of what I'm doing. I didn't want none of that shame or guilt for them. It was okay if it was for me, but not for them. So a lot of things I tried to I can't explain it, just hide and keep to myself, even getting clean. Like, it was one point in time I couldn't contact my family at all because I was scared. That might be my reason to go back. I can't do Thanksgiving. I can't do Christmas because I can't right now. Like, I have to take care of me to be able to take care of the little ones. So I couldn't socialize with my family. So that was another, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, this is tough stuff to talk about and to really shine a light, and really, I'm trying to think the best way to ask you this is the whole idea of truth and the liberation of that and the freedom that comes from it. There's a saying in some 12-step recovery movements and in therapy, really, and that is, you're as sick as your secrets.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. For the longest time, I don't think I ever, my husband never knew that I did cocaine. He always thought that my drinking was an issue. So when he found out about that, he didn't look at me differently, but he was just like, wow. You know, it took me a long time to get to that point, but I knew if I didn't tell him that I might pull myself back into it. That's how I felt. So it's good to get everything out on the table and just be like, hey, this is what it is. Help me, push me, but don't knock me because of it, because I'm crying and I'm letting you know what's real.
Transparency, openness.
Yeah.
I mean, and aren't those the things really necessities to both start recovery and sustain recovery?
Indeed so. Indeed so, because if I'm not honest about my yesterday,
yes,
what am I going to do in the future?
So how is that for you to deal with folks in their early recovery, first contact with, maybe you might be the first person they've ever even thought that might be that they could get in recovery. So
for me, I just let everybody know my path may not be your path, but there's a path for you. You have to find it. I can't pick it for you. I can give you resources. I can guide you. I can help you, but I can't choose your path for you.
But you do open this honest conversation now.
Yeah, like I've seen people where they're laying in the hospital bed, they don't want nobody to know anything, and they have family members out in the lobby waiting. It's not my job to tell them, but I can sit here with you as you tell them. But if you don't, you're going to stay in a dark hole. Like, you're going to always be hiding from something if you don't just let it go. So can you share a sort of a rewarding experience in the work that you've done? Maybe a rewarding experience,
or an aha moment, or something along those lines. Here more lately, maybe in the
I have a lot of aha moments, okay. But the rewarding part for me is when you get a phone call and that person is ready, that you haven't talked to in months, or the number has changed, or you haven't been able to contact them at their door, because we go on follow-up, we do follow-up phone calls, we do follow-up door knocks. And if you don't find that person, you're thinking like, what happened? What's going on? But when they finally call you and they say, I'm ready, like, that's why I do this work. I do this work because somebody did it for me, and they waited and they never left. When I'm here, when you're ready, I'm here. That's what they said. And I try to tell people that when you're ready, I'm here. I don't plan on going nowhere. I want to be in this field for a long time. So when you're ready, I'm here. And I just try to share that. Like, that's the only thing that I can do. It says, I was always told, with love and kindness have I drawn thee. And that's in the Bible. And I share that with others. Like, whenever I go out and speak, like, it doesn't cost you anything to be nice, to show love, to show kindness. And that's the only way that we're going to get other people to want to come in. Because once we're nasty and mean and they feel like they can't ask you for anything, they're going to shut down, and the resources that you want to give them or throw at them are going to be worthless.
Yeah. Well, we're about to wrap up the show. It's gone by really fast. I wish we could go longer. You have a very powerful story and a very powerful love and service sort of mission. I guess that would be your go-to mission statement, is love and service?
Yes, love and kindness.
And with that then, as we wrap up here, can you speak similar to what you just did to the viewer, specifically more to the viewer, as to if they're ready, what should they do as they're watching this? Whether on the YouTube channel that PAC 14 has, or whether they're seeing this as it's aired on Channel 14.
Whenever you're ready, I would just suggest that you speak up and speak out. Grab hold of your nearest health department or hospital. Our phone number is everywhere, hopefully by now. The COAT team, we're a 24-hour number. You can always pick up that phone and call and tell somebody that I'm ready. I need treatment, inpatient, outpatient, maintenance. If there is an issue of even health insurance to get the treatment that you need, we are willing to help with that. Just whenever you're ready, just pick up the phone and reach out and call someone.
Awesome. Awesome. That's a great way to end this show, and that letting our viewers know that help is available, as well as the sponsors of this show. The Recovery Resource Center is as well, has multiple meetings and support for those who are wanting that kind of love and support and community, as it were. So I want to thank you again for coming in today, Crystal.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks so much for the powerful, compassionate work that you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. So you've just watched another episode of Recovery Today, and we would encourage you to share this YouTube video if you're watching it that way, so others can hear this this great interview that we just had with Crystal. And we will see you next time. And just remember, recovery is a process. It's not so much an event. Thank you.